Jin BTS sang just one song at Coldplay's concert before disappearing without a word. The shocking reason behind his sudden exit will break your heart and reveal the quiet power of his message to ARMY. Why would Jin, the beloved eldest member of BTS, appear on stage in one of the most emotional performances of his career, only to vanish into thin air minutes later? Why did he sing just one song, deliver a single heartfelt message, and disappear from the spotlight like a ghost? And what was the heartbreaking reason that even Coldplay chose to remain silent? It wasn't supposed to be like this. The night Jin BTS walked on stage during Coldplay's concert in Seoul was meant to be a celebration, a reunion, a healing moment. And for a few brief minutes, it was exactly that. Fans across the stadium screamed, cried, and chanted his name the second the astronaut began playing. His presence, unexpected, pure, and vulnerable, was the kind of once-in-a-lifetime moment that made the world stop. But just as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. And oh encore, and oh backstage footage, and oh goodbye, he didn't return for Coldplay's second night in Seoul. There was no social media post, no press appearance, no official explanation from HYB, just silence, and that silence was deafening. Fans who had waited years to see Jin again were suddenly left with more questions than closure. Why did he vanish after one song? Why wasn't he mentioned in the encore? Why did he walk off stage looking as if he was holding something back? The mystery deepened when a leaked 5-second backstage video surfaced online. In it, Jin is seen sitting alone, head down, hands gripping the edges of a metal chair. A staff member whispers something in his ear, and he nods slowly before disappearing through a back exit. That footage sent the internet into meltdown. What had happened behind the scenes? Theories flooded online spaces. Was Jin pulled out by the military after exceeding his allotted time? Was his emotional state too fragile to continue? Or had he always known this would be a one-song, one-night-only miracle? Days later, HYB released a cryptic, single-sentence statement. "We are grateful to Coldplay for the collaboration. Jin has returned to resume his military duties." No elaboración. No confirmation of whether this was planned or forced, but the truth began to leak through insider whispers. According to military insiders cited in Korean media, Jin had been granted a one-night cultural release, an extremely rare and tightly controlled permit. It allowed him to perform under one condition. He would appear for a single song with no press and return immediately to duty. In other words, Jin knew all along. He knew he couldn't stay for the full show. He knew he wouldn't be allowed to say goodbye. And still, he came to stand under that spotlight one more time. Taehyung sing the song he left behind when he enlisted. Taehyung whisper a message to ARMY without saying too much. "I'm still here. I haven't forgotten you." The emotional impact of his brief appearance was so powerful that fans around the world began describing it as a kind of emotional whiplash. Some said it healed them. Others said it shattered them all over again. And then came his message, posted quietly on Weverse, hours after disappearing. "I'm okay. I had to go back early. I couldn't say goodbye, but you know it's never the end. Thank you for holding me last night." That single message, raw, unfinished, aching, broke hearts all over again. He didn't say goodbye because he couldn't, because the moment he stepped onto that stage, he was already halfway gone. Now, weeks later, fans are still rewatching that one performance. They're still decoding every lyric, every glance, every trembling note in The Astronaut. Not because they need answers, but because they felt the truth in his silence. He didn't come back to perform. He came back to remind them of something deeper. That some love stories aren't written in albums or tours, but in fleeting moments, sung once, then left behind like stardust. And perhaps that's why he left after one song, because staying longer would have broken more hearts than his leaving ever could. As fans across time zones sat in stunned silence, one thing became painfully clear. Jin didn't just disappear from a concert. He disappeared from them for a fandom built on connection, where every photo, every live, every behind-the-scenes moment is cherished like gold. Jin's sudden withdrawal felt like being left mid-sentence. The man who once held their hands through songs like Epiphany and Abyss had stood before them in full vulnerability and left before anyone could say, "Please don't go." The emotional ripple wasn't confined to ARMY. Coldplay fans, equally moved, expressed their shock and admiration for Jin's presence. Despite not being a member of the band, he had blended so seamlessly into their world that many assumed he'd return for a second appearance. When he didn't, forums flooded with mourning. "It felt like we lost someone we just met," one Coldplay fan wrote. Media coverage spiraled. K-pop analysts called it one of the most emotionally disruptive pop culture events of the year, not because of drama or controversy, but because of its purity. He came.
He sang.
He left, not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. Fan edits exploded across TikTok and YouTube. The hashtag #OneSongForever began trending globally. It wasn't just a tribute, it was a collective cry. How can a single performance, barely 3 minutes long, feel like the climax of a novel that was never finished? One viral video paired Jin's Coldplay moment with his final words before enlistment. "Don't wait for me too hard. Just live well, and I'll be back before you know it." The comment section? A battlefield of grief and gratitude. "You told us not to wait too hard, but how do we not wait when you look at us like that? I thought I'd moved on. Then I saw you on that stage. And now I'm waiting all over again." Even non-fans tuned in, curious how one man could cause such a massive emotional disturbance across platforms, cultures, and countries with just one song. Psychology blogs began analyzing the Jin phenomenon, describing it as flash grief tied to unresolved emotional narrative, the kind of response usually reserved for sudden loss, breakup, or trauma. But Jin's vanishing act wasn't cold. It wasn't theatrical, it was personal and deeply human. A former BTS stylist, speaking anonymously to Korean news outlet Starview, said, "Jin has always been the type to hold his pain quietly. When he smiles, it's real, but it's also covering a million things he never says. That's why even one song from him feels like a whole confession." Meanwhile, within the fandom, debates raged. Some fans defended the briefness of his appearance. That one song held more meaning than a full concert ever could. Others felt abandoned. "We needed more. We needed a goodbye." But one ARMY's tweet captured the paradox perfectly. "He gave us everything in 3 minutes. And somehow it wasn't enough. But maybe it was never meant to be." And perhaps that's what makes it unforgettable in an age where artists live-stream their entire lives, where intimacy is commodified, where idols are expected to bare their souls on schedule. Jin's decision to say everything in silence felt revolutionary. He didn't need an encore. He didn't need a speech. He didn't even need to be there for long. Because when he looked into the camera, when he sang "You and I, we're not alone," the world heard something deeper than lyrics. They heard a man caught between two worlds, the one he built with ARMY and the one that demands his duty. And now, having disappeared again into that duty, he leaves behind something more than a concert. He leaves a scarred, a beautiful one, a reminder that even idols can ache, that even legends can't always stay, that sometimes the most powerful goodbye is the one that doesn't say the word at all. That single performance, just one song, has become an event studied, replayed, and revered like a scene out of a tragic film. But unlike a movie, there is no script, no second take, no cathartic ending. There is only silence, and millions of people still staring at the ghost of that stage, waiting for it to light up again. This isn't a scandal. This isn't a scandal because there was no mistake. This isn't abandonment because he chose to come. This isn't a publicity stunt because there was no product, no teaser, no follow-up. This was something else. It was pure, and that's why it hurt. For days, Korean and international media speculated on whether this could be the beginning of a new chapter in idol artistry. Jin's appearance, stripped of commercial intention, almost spiritual in delivery, felt like a rebellion against the industry's relentless need for content. He gave nothing but presence, and that presence outshined the biggest campaigns, the most elaborate stages, the noisiest comebacks. Even music journalists from traditionally non-K-pop platforms like Rolling Stone Japan and The Guardian UK published editorials with headlines like "When Jin BTS Made Silence Louder Than Sound" and "3 Minutes of Truth. Why the World Fell in Love Again with the Quietest Member of BTS." And still, there was no return. Jin didn't appear in follow-up interviews. He didn't upload selfies. He didn't even acknowledge the viral storm he left behind. He had vanished, but this time, fans began to understand why.